Today, Marines are called into Los Angeles as a response to anti-ICE protests ramps up. Russia and Ukraine exchange prisoners of war. An impeachment trial in the Philippines. And what's behind the Warner Brothers Discovery split. It's Tuesday, June 10th. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes every weekday. I'm Kim Vanel in Wanganui, New Zealand. Some 700 active-duty Marines are on their way to Los Angeles. The Pentagon says they'll be deployed there temporarily until more National Guard troops arrive.
ICE out of LA! ICE out of LA!
They're trying to split us up. Come back with your hands up. Don't let them split us.
The move fueling more outrage from protesters who've taken to the streets over the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Daily raids that have seen thousands of suspected undocumented migrants rounded up and detained. The administration has ordered another 2,000 National Guard troops to the county, on top of the 2,000 already called up. Governor Gavin Newsom says California will sue the federal government over the National Guard mobilization. The White House says the demonstrations justified ramping up deportation efforts even further. Protests against ICE raids have flared up in at least 9 other cities across the US, including New York, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Austin. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has fired all 17 members of a CDC panel of vaccine experts, and he's in the process of replacing them. Scientists and experts say that the changes would undermine public confidence in health agencies. Greta Thunberg has been deported from Israel and is on her way home to Sweden via Paris. That's according to the Israeli Foreign Ministry. The Israeli Navy prevented her and other pro-Palestinian activists from sailing to Gaza with a boatload of rice and baby formula in an attempt to raise awareness about the humanitarian crisis there. And that's what it sounds like when K-pop megastars are released from the army. BTS's RM doing a little number on the sax. RM and V were both discharged from South Korean mandatory military service earlier today. And they've promised a BTS reunion after their bandmates wrap up their military duty. Warner Brothers is splitting into 2 publicly traded companies, separating its studios and streaming business from its fading cable TV networks. The breakup is the latest in the great unravelling of decades of media consolidation. Dawn Chmielewski is our entertainment correspondent. Dawn, what's behind the breakup?
Warner Brothers' thinking, based on its call with analysts is, look, the market has changed, David Zaslav, the CEO, argues that, look, we've come to a point where we need to separate these 2 businesses and give each the assets that they need to survive. How analysts are viewing this and others in the industry are viewing this is giving Warner Brothers more options for a potential future merger. You've got the cable company that also whose assets also include reality shows and also CNN, which is planning to launch a streaming service, and also TNT, which holds sports rights domestically. So that is an attractive proposition should private equity decide to begin to combine some of these aging assets, which continue to spin off a decent amount of cash. It's just that revenue is declining. And separately, the studio paired with HBO, its premium, television brand, and also Warner Brothers' very expansive film and TV library appears to be a business that's positioned to succeed in a world dominated by streaming. And it too could end up combining with other streaming companies to make a more compelling consumer offer.
Air defense guns pound over Kyiv, responding to Russian drone attacks that killed 2 people and damaged swaths of the Ukrainian capital. One of the largest airstrikes on Kyiv in over 3 years of war. More than 100 miles to the north, a very different sound. A young Ukrainian man calls his mother. He's a recently released prisoner of war back home after Russia and Ukraine agreed to a prisoner swap. Over in Russia, a similar story. A recently released POW calls his mum too.
Hello, Mom.
Christian Lowe is in Kyiv.
So the scenes that we saw were quite emotional with the Ukrainians coming over. Actually, in this case, all of the people who came over were under 25. So this is young guys, some of whom haven't spoken to their parents, it seems, for years. And they're calling their parents and saying things like, "Hi, Mum, I'm home. See you soon."
How is this happening in the middle of a conflict?
What happened was that Donald Trump kind of knocked people's heads together and said, you need to make peace, enough killing. And under pressure from Donald Trump, both Russian negotiators and Ukrainian negotiators met in Istanbul earlier this month. And to be frank, the talks didn't go anywhere in terms of getting closer to a peace deal. In fact, some people argue that we're now further away. But one concrete thing that did come out of it was a commitment to do these prisoner swaps. So that's what they're doing. They, both sides, I think, present it as kind of confidence-building measures, which are a first step to a bigger discussion about a way to end this war. The problem is that it feels right now like this first step is where it'll end for now, because we can't see the next steps happening.
Sara Duterte, the vice president of the Philippines and daughter of former president Rodrigo Duterte, is facing impeachment. Senators are being sworn in as jurors today. If she is impeached, it could have far-reaching consequences for her friend turned foe, the current president, Marcos Jr., and for the future of the country. Martin Petty is in Bangkok. What is Sara Duterte accused of?
She's accused of betrayal of the public trust and allegations that she mismanaged her office's budget and that she amassed unusual wealth. She denies that. And she's also accused of high crimes. And that stems from an alleged threat against the lives of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the First Lady, and the Speaker of the lower house of Parliament, who is also the cousin of the president. She denies that. She says these charges and the whole impeachment process is politically motivated. And just this morning, she said that impeachment shouldn't be used as a political tool, and she's ready to defend herself.
Why is this impeachment trial so big for the country?
This impeachment process could ultimately impact the next election in 2028. Marcos is limited to a single term, as all Philippine presidents are, and Sara Duterte would be expected to be the front runner if she decides to go. Marcos has to protect his legacy here. He's also got the rest of his agenda that he needs to deliver on in the next 3 years. So this whole impeachment process has really, really stirred this row between them even further. And it's anybody's guess how this is going to play out long term.
And for today's recommended read, Chinese cash-strapped luxury shoppers are shifting to the second-hand market. Think $30 for a pre-loved Coach bag. Consumer behaviour in China is changing as price wars rage. And there's a worry that deflation becomes entrenched in the world's second-largest economy. There's a link to that story in the pod description. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favourite podcast player, and we'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.